August 2023, and you are listening to the Body Talk program on the Static Radio Network. Body Talk is a program for your mind, body, and soul. Again, good morning. I hope everyone had an enjoyable, great, fun, safe, and super fantastic weekend. First and foremost, let's continue to celebrate Black history every day throughout the year. That means 365 days or 366 if we're in leap year. Black history is important because it is our history. We are American history. The other thing I want to share with you, a bit of news, is if you recall last week I said there's an awakening occurring in and around, more so in Cleveland, Ohio, where the show is based out of. And we have two dynamic guests this morning to talk about an initiative that will be on the ballot in November of this year. And before I introduce the one guest that's in the studio, the other one, Mr. White, he will be arriving sometime between 11:30 and quarter to 12. I'm encouraging everybody, and I mean everybody, if you are of voting age, to go vote. Local votes. Your vote is your voice. It represents who you are. I also will share with you, if you vote even for an issue and or for a candidate, your vote represents your character and integrity. In brief, if you vote for a known idiot, liar, thief, or fool, and that person wins, you have just elected a known idiot, thief, liar, and fool. So do not be surprised and or disappointed in with what you don't receive and what you do receive, because your vote determines your character and integrity. The other thing before we get into the show is I want you to be aware and pay close attention to what is said and what is done, especially during what I call crazy or election season. Both parties, and I'm not going to demean if you're Democrat, Republican, Socialist, Independent, or whatever your affiliation might be. Just because you receive an October Christmas card with everybody's face on it, better known as the endorsement card, that does not mean you have to vote for those or that individual. You don't. Do your own research. Do your own homework. Okay, so let's move into the show. Sitting to my right, and I'm going to label her a friend. She might not know that, but she is Miss Delores Gray. And she and Mr. Andre White are here to discuss PB Cleveland, okay? And she'll tell you what the acronyms stand for, because I'm not going to steal their thunder. And I have allotted them at least an hour and a half to 2 hours to discuss the facts and the truth. There's certain tales, you're not supposed to use the term lie on the air. There's certain tales coming out from those who oppose PB Cleveland. And it's amazing, and we're going to go back and forth. This is not going to be a contentious interview by any means. This interview is to let you, the listeners in Cleveland, Ohio, hear the truth and the facts about PB Cleve. So first, let me welcome Delores. Thank you for being here, Delores.
You're welcome. Thank you.
You're quite welcome. And let's start this way, Delores, and let me share with you and the listening audience. I'm not going to be an antagonist.
Okay.
I'm going to be a foil. I'm going to ask you they're reasonable questions, nothing to embarrass you or the movement that your group has put together, the group has put together.
Mm-hmm.
It's just to give people an opportunity, and I'm going to reiterate, to hear the facts and the truth. And I have shared with all the listeners over the weeks, just not about this particular issue, I don't tell people who to vote for. I think that is a sacrosanct, that's a fancy term for private.
Right.
Your vote is private unless you come running out the voting or the polling book. I voted for. I voted for. I voted for. Okay, and that's something you did. I encourage people to vote, and I do. I will let individuals know. I believe in BP Cleve. I'm supporting.
Yes.
All right, but that doesn't mean I'm just going to throw these softball questions up and let you hit them on run.
Okay.
Okay. So let's get started, Delores. First off, explain to listeners what public budgeting is.
Well, it stemmed from participatory budgeting, which was something that a coalition put together back at near the ending of 2022 in regards to the ARPA funds regarding American Rescue Act, and it was to include the monies that the funds that came from that source for communities, which actually that's what it was geared for anyway. But it was supposed to, get the community to work out things in their own community, bring people together so they can enhance their community.
All right.
Period. But what happened is that those powers to be did not like it, did not want it, so they tabled the legislation or the amendment. So what happened after that is that we came up. I came on board at the beginning of the year, and we formed. There was a coalition formed, and we decided that hey, we need to do something about it. They're not going to budge, and to be quite honest, it was 4 council women actually that sponsored this in the beginning.
Okay.
And so from that point, they didn't, like I said, they tabled it, and at that, we started getting things ready because we said we're going to get this on the ballot. So people budget, we changed the name from participatory to people's budget because that's what it's about, the people.
Okay. And you're listening to Body Talk program on No Psych Radio Network. Let's back up for just a minute to give some context.
Mm-hmm.
You mentioned our funds. Those funds were appropriated by Congress and signed into law.
Mm-hmm.
And initially, there were guardrails built around it.
Right.
And what you said is true. Cleveland received $550 million.
Mm-hmm.
If for all of you who are in finance and economics, that's $500 million.
Right.
$500 million. And you mentioned this issue came up in front of council.
Yes.
Prior to, and if I recall,
Mm-hmm.
please correct me, but I don't get too much wrong.
Okay.
I do. The mayor initially was going to give $5 million out of the $550 million.
Yes.
For the people's budget.
For the participatory budgeting at that time.
At the time, right. See, I got something wrong. I did that first. So it went to council.
Yes.
For them to vote on the ordinance, because if you're not aware how city council works, most of them work about the same across the country. Council has to pass an ordinance that appropriates or releases funds. The mayor then signs it, and then the keeper of the money of the change, he or she cuts the check and boom.
Exactly.
The mayor supported the $5 million
at that time. Yes.
At that time, and city council said they tabled it. They said no, in essence. Yeah. And you don't have to mention names. You don't have to. We're not here to name call. I'm not going to single out anybody such as Blaine Griffin, who's the council president, because I didn't mention his name. You did, but I mentioned.
You mentioned it.
You're right. Put the onus on me. He tabled it.
Yes.
And some of the comments, I'm going to paraphrase, but I'm going to use the exact words that some of the councilmen stated, especially Blaine. He said, well, voters are fickle.
Yes.
They don't know what they want.
Correct. That's what was said.
I have a pretty good memory. I took my Cinco de Mayo this morning. Another councilman in Ward 0, as I unfortunately call it, Ward 1 for other people, he said it was his money.
They all think that.
Well, I can't. I can't say all of them.
Mm-hmm. Well, the ones that did not sponsor it.
Okay, right. They think it's their money, and that's a red flag for me. When a legislator says my money, it's not yours.
No.
It's the people's money.
Mm-hmm.
So the $5 million never made it on a vote. And you had mentioned 4 other council members who supported it, and I'm not going to get into mentioning their name because they might get kicked out of the caucus or whatever. And it's strange. There's all Democrats in city council. How you put somebody out of the caucus? This is a weird city here. Okay, so let's go back. So the ARP funds, initially, when they were released by Congress, they were guardrails.
Yes.
Initial funding was supposed to go to the safety forces, to public health, and I'm saying this backwards actually, public health, safety forces, and or to replenish your reserve funds, because every municipality around the country has to meet certain reserves so that they don't get put on financial watch, such as like East Cleveland. I said East Cleveland, but it's true.
Goodness.
Yeah, well, we're not going to talk about East Cleveland. So, when the guardrails was taken off, it was a free-for-all. And go ahead.
They were, also, you're correct in what you were saying about where those funds, but they were also geared for the community because of COVID, the situation that happened with the pandemic and all of that. So, but still, they were saying it is their money, and it's the community's money. It's the city's money. It's the
cities. It's the citizens' money.
Right.
And I'm not going to involve you in this unless you want to reply. See, a lot of elected people use money as a power.
Yes, I agree.
That was Delores Gray.
Yes, it was Delores Gray.
And they use it as power. In Ward 7. Your house isn't up for sale, is it? But they use it as power. So they can stand up there 6 hours or 6 minutes before election time. Well, I did this, I allocated this amount of money, I did this with that amount of money. And in essence, they really don't. Because in the city of Cleveland, it takes a simple majority, which means 9 votes, for a council member to ordinance funds to his or her ward or across the city that would benefit the city. Okay. So let's go back for a minute. So there's $550 million. Then now it went from participatory budgeting to the people's budget.
Yes, we changed it to the people's budget.
Okay. Now, why did they take the $5 million off the table?
Well, from what I understand, and basically some things you were just saying, is because they claim that that it was their money, first of all, and that it was taking power from them. And, I don't see it that way. It's not taking power from you. It is enhancing everything that you do, and it's helping your community, the citizens of Cleveland. And also it is creating transparency and showing accountability. And in my opinion, there's none. So I think, now I will say this, they have put, some of the funding to some use that is good for the citizens. But I think a large amount of it is going to other entities that they're working on.
Yes.
That has nothing to do with the citizens.
Thank you, Delores. And you're listening to Body Talk on the No Static Radio Network. It's interesting, and I'm just going to use January of about a year and a half ago, technically. Council passed $12 million to support Shaker Square. That's a shopping area, and let's just call it the near southeast side of Cleveland, or whatever. And it was interesting. $6 million of it went to a private entity to bail them out of bankruptcy.
Right.
The other $6 million went to a firm or business to run rehab Shaker Square. Okay. Now, I want to make it clear. Let me be quite, I'm going to get to that word, that fancy term to use, transparent, but I'm just going to make it very clear. I'm not opposed to development,
Right.
but it has to be controlled, constrained,
Mm-hmm.
reasonable development at any given time.
Right.
So let's using this $12 million. You bail out a private entity. So technically, Cleveland, the city of Cleveland, owns Shaker Square for about 13 seconds.
Exactly, I agree.
Now there was another gentleman who actually put in a bid to buy Shaker Square, a private citizen.
Okay.
And this gentleman, anything he does turns to gold.
Mm-hmm.
It really does. This,
Okay.
I'm gonna call him Brandon because that's his first name.
Okay.
He's a restaurant.
I know who he is. Yes.
Okay, sharp guy.
Mm-hmm.
This guy is sharp.
Yes, he is.
He put in the bid, if I remember, it's $5.5 million, and he didn't need to be bailed out. This was his money. He already had the financial backing, the loans, or whatever. Might have been his personal fund, but whatever. And the city turned him down because the city and the receiver said, "Oh no, we got to bail out this private entity," which nobody ever,
No one knows.
nobody knows
Who they are.
who
Yes.
they are, who comprises the entity.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Released from bankruptcy, $6 million went to Shaker Square. Now Shaker Square, the area where it's located and where this ties in, it butts up against Cleveland Heights and it's kind of sort of close to Beechwood and Shaker.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not saying people from Cleveland Heights and Beechwood and Shaker, and I'm also going to put Pepper Pike in here. Excuse the way I put this. They ain't coming to Shaker Square to go shopping at Dave's.
No, they're not.
No. They're not coming to Shaker Square to...
Not when you have HUD housing right behind the area. I'm just saying.
Well, you're describing it, and you're listening to the Body Talk program on the No Side Radio Network. So, did it benefit in proximity to the people who kind of sort of live in, let's say, Cleveland proper? I'm going to say,
yeah,
maybe, somewhat. Now, if you drive through Shaker Square today, and it's not their money, the streets were being worked on, that's city money. And you mentioned I mentioned the 550, $500 million. Sounds better when you say $500 million.
Yeah, it does.
It's a lot, that's
It's
still a lot of money.
Yes.
$500 million is a lot of money. If you take a pie chart and begin to graphically display the funds that have been allocated that greatly benefit the citizens of Cleveland, we would get what's called, the citizens will receive a sliver of the pie.
Right.
The bulk of the money has gone to other purposes. And so what you explain what public budgeting is, okay? Now it's the people's budget, so let's say people's budget at this point.
Well, I will say too, some of that 500 or $500 million, it did also, it was allocated to as well to educational programs too. So I do know that.
Okay.
But still, even with that said, when you mention the pie chart, that's still just a small sliver.
Yeah. And and if again listening to Body Talk program on the No Side Radio Network, a lot of people aren't aware that your school districts receive their own separate funding from the federal government because of the pandemic.
Right.
Or COVID-19 is pandemic. They didn't receive any funds from the city of Cleveland because they had their own. See, what's interesting, and again going back, when certain council members said, well, my money, and they said, well, you voted for me. That's improper English, but that's how they talk. You voted for me to represent you. Now, I'm going to ask the question, and we're going to tie it into the $5 million that everybody pulled back on the table, or so council did. If they would just listen to what the constituents, the citizens in their ward or around the city want, this might not have ever happened.
Correct. I mean, because I felt that it was reasonable, and but as someone stated that the taxpayers, as well as the people that are on the coalition, and we're uneducated and unelected and unaccountable, but that's why they didn't listen, because they feel that they're superior, and they want to use those fundings for their own, what they're doing. I have a problem with the new developers coming in the area. We are not connected to that. And as a citizen and taxpayer, I want transparency. I want to see the accountability. I want to know what's going on.
And now you mentioned transparency. Was that 3 syllables? You mentioned a 3-syllable word. I know I'm having one of those moments today. What is transparency in government? What does that mean?
Well, to be quite honest, it really means nothing to them. But to me, it means that you're showing exactly what you're doing. You are including the people that voted for you. You're including the citizens. You're giving them and putting everything on the table, letting them know this is what we're doing, or even just even basically when they go to these different meetings and forums, is asking the citizens, what would you like us to do? What would you like to happen? But you're not doing that. But to me, that's what transparency is to show what you're doing, to show your concern, to show that you care about the taxpayers in the city of Cleveland.
And just to add on to transparency, see, one of the things that a lot of people don't understand, just because you vote for somebody, unless whoever you vote for, shame on you if you vote for certain people. Whoever you vote for, they should still be accountable to you.
Exactly.
They should still listen to you. And it's okay. And I'm going to make the world perfect for a minute. And I'm going to make you my elected representative. Okay. And I say, well, would you please consider this? And maybe it's 6 or 7 or maybe 15 or 100 other people saying the same thing. And you say yes. Now we're expecting you to do that. If you come back and say, well, I can't do that now, this is why, you're being transparent.
Exactly.
Or
let's find another way.
Very good. Let me know when you're going to run off. But the other thing that's important here is when you talk about these forums or community meetings, don't have them be dog and pony shows.
Right, and that's exactly what they are.
Yeah, just don't stand up there, I understand, yes, I will, whatever. Or turn your back and wave your hand like a little, I don't want to say boy or girl, but like a little child. Knowing good and, can I say damn on that? I can say
hey, it's your show.
Knowing good and damn well,
right.
You're lying.
Exactly.
You're not going to do anything. See, the other thing I encourage everybody to do in the city of Cleveland, especially with your council members. Your council members are your legislators. They have oversight of the executive, which is a fancy term for the mayor and his or her administration. In this particular case, is his. But they don't do that. They don't.
No.
And if you go back to the previous 2 budget cycles, I've never seen, and we can go back even 16 years, council always passes the budget that's put in front of them. They don't ever increase it. They don't ever decrease it. And, without getting into the depths of what you've done for a living or what I've done, when I participated in budgets, even at the local and federal level, I've never seen, you hand somebody a piece of paper and they say, okay.
Or you just do it blindly.
So that's sad in itself. And going back to this transparency thing, or that fancy word you use, one thing that's important here, and I used to teach business ethics in college, okay? Transparency in this city is as clear as the Mississippi River.
Right, and it's not clear at all.
It's not clear at all. It's very dirty.
Right.
All right, and I'm not saying to people.
And that's why I said, in my interpretation of it, that's not what they have in their minds. They're totally different, so.
I think what what they're saying is that they want people to believe what they say.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the tenets I would use, especially teaching the ethics course, is don't pay attention. Pay attention to what people say. Pay closer attention to what they do.
Right.
And
Exactly.
And they're not listening to citizens. Now, I will grant you that if 17 or all 17, but we can only focus on where you live and where I live and where somebody else lives. If they would just pay attention,
right,
and be honest. Be honest. That's the key word. Be honest. Now, and I'm not trying to get you in this contentious battle with the administration because I don't want the supporters of PB Cleveland to do that. Mayor Bibb said $5 million. Council said no.
Right.
They didn't even bring it to the floor.
They tabled it.
They tabled it. Tabled means you didn't bring it to the floor.
Right. I was there. It was
sad.
Yes.
And the mayor didn't say anything.
No. Until he said something after. See, this is what I think. I think that they really believed that we weren't, no one was going to challenge this. And, so when they got the numbers that, hey, we got everything we needed. When the mayor came out and made that statement that he's not going to support, it was very disappointing because he was the person who
added up to $5 million.
Yes.
He put it was a budget line.
Yes.
In his budget.
And they just threw it on him, tossed it.
And you listen to Body Talk, and we have Delores Gray from BP Cleve, Cleveland here. Council tabled it. The mayor didn't say anything. The budget passed. He still didn't say anything. Then up springs these 9 million people in and around. It's not 9 million people, but significant number of citizens in Cleveland. Okay. And PB Cleveland.
Yes.
Was born. How did this issue get on the ballot?
Well, we got together and we got a petition, and we got over 10,000 signatures. We really needed a little over 6,500, I believe. Right. I don't know the exact number at this point, but we worked. Everybody in the coalition and volunteers canvassed, and we worked. For this went on for 6 weeks. We got this together in 6 weeks. But on top of that, we also registered up to 900 folks.
Just to vote. So they
yes.
Either they could sign a petition,
yes.
or they could go vote in the most recent election,
exactly.
which was the August
issue 1.
Issue 1. Interesting. 10,000 votes. You only needed 6,500.
Right.
10,000 were cleared by the Board of Elections. You know what the average councilman won his ward by? The vote turnout?
I know all of them it was very low.
It wasn't near 10,000. There's 20,000 residents that live in each ward. Now all 20,000 are voter eligible because some of them are children. So let's just cut that in half. You got 10,000 residents who are voter eligible. The average councilman averaged anywhere from 2,100 to 2,400 votes in the previous election.
Exactly.
You out-polled them 5 times over.
Right.
10,000 signatures.
That's because the people in Cleveland know this is needed. They know this is something that is needed, and they're tired.
Okay. Now, what do you mean by tired?
They're tired of what we were just talking about. They're tired of not being heard. They're tired of their neighborhood not receiving things that they actually need. They're tired of their voices not being heard, period.
And I'm going to skip around. See, when you're tired, most people become angry.
Right.
And when you're angry, your thought process changes. And I don't mean it changes into a violent nature. It changes in that I'm going to do something that's going to make it better for me and everybody else around. And I agree with you, they're tired. That's why early, before I introduced you, I said Cleveland's going through this transformation now.
Yes.
And I think the transformation is well overdue, but it's required, because if you continue as a citizen to sit back and think that whoever holds that office, that seat, that chair, and you think they're going to do something that's going to benefit you, an ice cube in a 450-degree oven has a better chance of survivability or success than you do, depending on that person sitting in that chair. Okay? You listen to the body talk.
And that's sad.
Well, it's very sad. And
I know for myself, you know, being in the community, working hard, and even approaching, you know, a previous council person in my ward, I got backlash. It was just a big problem, a huge problem. And one of them, for me, one of the problems is because I did not see him as superior over me. I saw him as a servant for the people. And, you know, I guess he didn't like that. And, you know, so it was just, this is what I'm tired of.
But see, you keep using these fancy terms like transparency and servant. You know, the ultimate servant, depending on what your theological beliefs are, Jesus Christ, okay? Let's get that out the way. A public servant.
Yes.
It doesn't say a public self-servant.
It's definitely. And I think a lot of times these public people, they basically become inflated with their egos, and because they have the power, and therefore they're not working for the people. They are self-serving. And, you know, that truly bothers me. And that was one of the reasons why I joined BP Cleveland, because people's voices, you know, the residents are not being heard.
Well, see, it's interesting. You keep throwing in these terms, and I'm going back to my teaching days, publishing at the University of Maryland in Southern Illinois. See, one of the things that people misuse and don't understand, and I'm not saying this applies to you, well, power. The voters have the power, not the person in the chair.
Exactly.
Because you might have got elected on January 1st, sworn in on January 2nd. We can remove you. The voters can remove you on March the 4th if they want to, if that's their will and desire.
And this is why I do speak out a lot, and when I'm doing community forums and things of that sort, because I want people to understand is that the power is in their hands, period. We have the power.
Correct.
And, you know, we have to get that out of, it's hard, I guess it's hard for some people to get that out of their psyche, that we cannot, that we have the power. That's why we vote, because of the power. And that's my issue with, you know, dealing with how the city of Cleveland do certain things. And then, you know, here it is, there's some of the council people that are, you know, very pro-public PB Cleveland. But some of them will fall on the wayside because they want to be with the rest of them. And they all, you know, so they can be together. It's like a group. And, you know, what you call it?
It's a gang.
Yeah, exactly. Yes.
Well, see, one of the things, and again, we have Delores Gray with BP Cleveland. One thing that's important here, I think, is that, first off, PB is going to pass. It's not if. It's going to pass.
Exactly.
Right. See, one thing that people, the voters, the citizens, they have to understand, not politics, they have to understand the political process.
Right.
And what their rights are. You speak out in your community, Mr. Johnson speaks out in his, I speak out in mine, or whatever the case might be. And we're all, you're a troublemaker, you're a radical.
Yes.
I'm a troublemaker because I asked.
I was told.
You asked a question.
Right. I was told a couple of days ago that what was said to me is, well, they're not going to care about this PB Cleveland. Only thing they're going to see is you as an angry black woman. And I'm like, because I want my community to thrive, or I want the city of Cleveland to thrive.
Well, see, one of the things that I recognize over time, especially with voters, and I'm a voter, is most voters won't change, because if they voted for Mickey Mouse, and now it's time to put whoever in office, or he or she's running against Mickey Mouse, most voters will continue to vote for Mickey Mouse,
right,
knowing that they haven't received anything, they've been misled, lied to, whatever other negative term you can come up with. Because if they change their vote, that's an acknowledgement that they made a mistake.
Right.
And most people don't like to acknowledge they made a mistake. Yeah, I made a mistake when I bought a black car one time. So get it washed, it's filthy, so you put it right. It's just 8:30.
It's just dusty all the time.
You have to acknowledge that and move on. I think, and we're going to go back specifically to BP Cleveland in a minute. See, the other thing, especially with voters, when you cast that ballot for whoever it is, you've just you've hired that person.
Yes, you've hired that person to work for you.
To work for you. You're not supposed to work for them. They're supposed to be working for you.
Yes.
What's disappointing is some voters sit there numb and dumb, or people will say, well, you shouldn't talk to him or her that way. Well, I kind of say this very politely. Don't tell me what to say. As long as I'm not cursing at you.
Right. I show respect where the respect is deserved, period. If you respect me, I respect you.
Very good. This is Delores Gray, who I agree with on that statement and some other things you said. And you listen to Body Talk on the No Static Radio Network. So let's go back. Share with the audience some recent or other public budgeting successes around the country, if you know.
Well, I do know that public budget has been going on in several cities around the United States. For one, in Detroit, Lansing, Michigan. Also, and here's the thing, I want to just also throw this out here. Yes, each population is different.
Correct.
Demographics are different, but the demographics for that particular city, like in Lansing, Michigan, it worked for them. They got things together, and they're still doing it. This has been ongoing for them. I don't have the numbers. Usually Andre is the number person. He knows, he has it down pat. But I do know as well, not only Michigan, but also in California, Los Angeles, and some other areas. And even, when you talk about a broad range, this is all the way out of the states, like in another country. They're doing this over in, I believe, Canada, as well as Europe as well. So these are things that are happening, and they are thriving. Their areas are thriving. And I would say the most closest part to us would be Lansing, Michigan.
Right.
And so, they're working this. They have a lot of different programs, and the people are pleased with it. They didn't have the problems that we're having right now with this PB Cleveland, because even though of course they had some opposition, it still went through, and the people are getting what they want in the community.
And and what you said is true. That's why I said this is going to be a program of facts and truth. The other city in Michigan is Grand Rapids.
Right.
And Grand Rapids, a little bit smaller than Cleveland population-wise, and they have 4 wards.
Right.
Grand Rapids. And public budgeting, participatory. Try to say that.
Participatory.
Thank you. She's my aide. Public budgeting took off.
Right.
It took off. The other thing that's interesting now, I'm a former teacher, kind of sort of researcher. The voter turnout since the implementation has gone up. So you get civic engagement.
Exactly.
with this as a byproduct, if I may. Now, that's just in Grand Rapids that I'm speaking. It took off in LA,
Right.
Los Angeles, doing very well. When the 10,000 signatures were accepted by clerk, passed over to
Right.
the Board of Elections, and for lack of a better term, job became official. That's something
Yes.
for the coalition became official. You're just waiting for a number.
That's it.
What's interesting here is the voter turnout in Cleveland is low. The most recent election, and we're going to take all of Cuyahoga County, Cleveland being the big city, the county seat, is population-wise, it is the biggest, had the lowest voter turnout for state issue 1 in Cuyahoga County.
Wow.
Now there's 349,000, so let's just slice that in half. Let's just say there's 150,000 eligible voters, and we had 20% turnout.
Wow.
Cleveland had the lowest of everybody in the county. They had the lowest, compared to Shaker Heights, which is much smaller, and some other suburban cities. So civic engagement increased. And I'm gonna let you talk about examples of different projects that the public budgeting might address. It seems as if, and one thing that was brought out, the city council president, I think you said his name was Blaine Griffin. It is. You didn't say it, I did. He came out and said, well, he called all these cities, and they said it's failing. And he said he talked to people in Boston. That's interesting because Boston hasn't even implemented yet. So I don't know.
But I think you really have to look at the whole picture when he's doing that. All the scare tactics.
Such as what?
One of those scare tactics is stating, and this is real interesting, saying that it will take away from the police, that they will not be able to hire police officers, and I'm like saying, I'm saying to myself, where are the police officers at now? Where are they? Also, senior citizen programs, and I think it's playing on the elderly community, because they want to make sure they have their senior services. And so that's another scare tactic, is about the senior services would disappear. Also, I believe something dealing with the housing codes, dealing with that, inspector. And I'm saying to myself, with all this that's going on, where are they at now? Where is the where are the services?
Well, let me add on to what you pointed out to the audience. Again, you listen to the Body Talk program on the Secular Network. We have Delores Gray with BP Cleve here. And again, this is this program today dedicated to BP Cleve. Facts and truth.
Yes.
Yes, he came out, whoever he is, I think it said Blaine. He came out and did the scary thing, said boo. He said, well, I'm gonna do the safety services.
Oh yes.
The safety services were going to be cut. Now, I'm a policy guy too. I've asked and have not received the answer on how did the administration reach a number of 1,495 officers in the city of Cleveland, where the previous administration or chief basically said 16 to 1,700.
Right.
Nobody ever explained how they got 1,495. And the city council said pass. Just pass it. The other thing about that goes for all of the safety forces. Blaine stood up there and said, well, we're not going to be having policemen, EMS techs, and all that other stuff. Well, he's not my cousin, so I'm going to sound like I'm on the streets. Cousin, you ain't hiring them now.
Right.
And you ain't hiring them because you ain't paying them enough. And you don't care for them enough. So the other thing that's he mentioned, we might have to close the health department.
Oh, yes. That was another
Well, that was boo.
one.
The health department. No more free vaccinations. No more this. No more that. No more STD checks. No more HIV. Oh man, it's just we're scared.
Right.
The other thing he mentioned is right. He mentioned well, we won't be able to hire housing inspectors. Boom. Well, guess what? You haven't hired any to begin with. Although you allocated a number in the budget, and let's be candid. Last year, prior to this implementation of this budget, he said that there was a hiring freeze.
Right. That's right. I forgot about that, but that's true.
Yeah, there was a hiring freeze. Boo. So, for those of you who have extreme anxiety,
Yes, you're playing on all of that.
you're playing on the fear
Right.
of what
Scare tactics.
scare tactics not going to happen.
See, fear factor.
When you talk about facts, which he didn't, he played on emotions. And as citizens, ask for the facts.
Right.
And you're listening to the Body Talk radio program, Body Talk program on the No Static Radio Network. And we've just been joined by Mr. Andre White. He's old. That's him making that noise. That's not the mic or the equipment. That's his joints.
How you doing, Andre?
I'm doing fine. Well, I can't hear myself.
We can hear you. I hope people can hear you over there. So one of the things that is important here is that's why I said this is a show. You really don't need the headphones if you just want. This is a show, a program today based upon facts and truth. Okay. And Andre, just before you walked in, we were talking about some of the other cities who have implemented public or participatory budgeting, such as Grand Rapids in LA.
Chicago.
And Chicago, thank you. And those cities,
New York.
Right.
have been very successful. And for some crazy reason, those cities didn't go into fiscal watch by any means. When PB Cleveland passes, whatever amount of funding goes to support that effort, it becomes an expense line in the budget.
Correct.
So,
And that means that the city of Cleveland has to fund that
Exactly.
that item, the budget item.
right. They have
Correct.
and where the funding comes from, and I'm not by any means trying to tell the coalition what to do, that's not your problem. I think what happens now is that city council and the mayor now have to function in the capacity of what they were elected to do, and more so focusing on city council.
Pass a budget that is
Right.
related back to the people.
Move the mic up a little bit closer to you. You might have to switch mics around here.
Pass the budget that relates to the people.
Okay. So again, my turn. The scare tactic,
Yes.
hitting on anxiety, boo. The city's going to go under and all this other stuff. We won't be able to hire policemen and all the other servants or civil servants in the city.
Well,
See, go ahead.
Not to cut you off, Al, but one thing is with city council and the mayor administration is the same way that you negotiate your means of getting a stadium, finding many ways of funding for stadiums is the same thing that you can do when it coming down to PB Cleve's budget.
Okay. So what the stadium, okay, and I'm not saying that's an excellent example. The
I just
stadium,
say negotiation, the way they negotiate.
Yeah, the way they
right, the
negotiate.
negotiated, okay. See what's, and I'm speaking for me, I can't speak for Delores or you, Andre. See, one of the things that I was taught and still used to teach, and still do when I was working for a living, you budget what you believe in and you fund what you support. have nothing against Cleveland Browns, the Guardians, or whoever, the Cavaliers. You have to have some form or sense of entertainment, per se. You need a building for them to do those things in. But if the council during your negotiations, Andre, and more so with the mayor, the council has to approve that negotiated contract or amount to support those entities. If you can do that earnestly for, let's say, this is called the sports teams or venues, why can't you do that for the people where you live?
Correct. My thing is that if you can find admission taxes, you can find bedroom, hotel taxes, luxury taxes, what else they use, all kind of different taxes to fund these stadiums, then fund the stadium because they are property. They do belong to the city of Cleveland. I'm not against that.
Right.
But the remainder of that money needs to go to the neighborhoods.
Okay. Now, when you see one of the things, and Delores uses these fancy terms like transparency, and what else did you say?
I don't remember.
Because you use like 90 different terms. Now, Andre's saying neighborhoods. When you say neighborhoods, are you talking about the citizens across the city of Cleveland, or are you talking about a specific neighborhood?
Well, on behalf of Cleveland, the neighborhoods in the city of Cleveland needs to be funded.
Okay.
Overall, let's be equitable to all the neighborhoods.
You're listening to the Body Talk program on the No Static Radio Network, and we have to my immediate right, Delores Gray, and to my far right, Mr. Andre White with PB Cleveland.
Now, there are some neighborhoods that are being underlooked at, and they may need more funding.
Mm-hmm.
So let's get them the funding that they need.
Okay.
Once again, I have no quarrels or nothing against us funding our stadiums because it's our property.
Right.
But also put money back to.
See, one of the things that is interesting here, we'll talk about some of the projects that PB Cleveland might be able to fund. And I'm receiving a couple of texts saying that a lot of people can't hear you, Andre, so we're going to just do we're fine. We might have to check the mic.
He's good.
Okay. So one of the things that is important here, what type of programs would PB Cleveland fund?
PB Cleve can fund any program that the people want to be funded. It's not PB Cleve, so we have to get out of that. What can PB Cleve do? It's the people who's going to come in and do the proposals. It's the people who are going to vote. It's the people who make the decisions.
Mm-hmm.
And their decisions and anything that they want to see. They can want an air conditioner in a school. They can want trees on a certain street. They can want their streets paved. It's what the people want, not PB Cleveland, the people.
Okay.
And there's all
Even
kind of
having like a co-op, a grocery co-op for food, things like that. Anything that is going to benefit.
mental health,
Right.
security in neighborhoods, hiring security guards in neighborhoods, or just grass, landscaping. Some people like to have landscaping done. Whatever the people choose is that. Is what this ballot initiative is for.
Okay, let's talk about the structure. PB Cleve passes. What's the structure?
Once people's budget is passed, then it's upon the administration and city council to appoint 5 individuals on each side. So they get to appoint 5 individuals, and then the administration has to hire 1 individual to do the job of executive director, help the committee go through the process. So that's the first thing that they have to do.
So the mayor gets 5 selections. Silly, I said silly, not to say city. City council gets 5 selections.
Correct.
So there's 10 commissioners, if I may, 10 commissioners
Whatever they want to name them.
or committee members.
Committee members,
Okay.
commission.
And what's their role?
And their role is strictly, I'm going to read you what their role is because we get it all twisted up sometimes. So go ahead, Tom, let me start.
Well, so there's going to be 10 individuals
Right.
on this committee or commissioners, and I'm just using myself. I could apply, which nobody probably will select me because I'm a troublemaker. But these 10 will do well, which Andre's looking up because your coalition actually published this booklet that everybody
So,
is guided by.
so what it is basically is the role of it says role of the resident-led steering committee. I guess it's like a board,
Mm-hmm.
and it's like it's the steering committee is like a board of elections. So it
So
says
what-
it's made up of 10 residents, half appointed by the mayor, as Andre stated, and half by the council, and one staff member hired to support the PB process. And the steering committee will publish a guidebook that describes how PB will work that year. So members of the steering committee may serve up to two terms.
Okay. So help me, and which I understand, help the audience understand something. Let's somewhat make the world consistent for a minute. The initiative passes, but you still have the same 17 people who, I'm just making it in
I know where
totality.
you're going, but go ahead.
You still have the same 17 people who didn't support it.
Right.
And if I'm going to be smart, I'm going to select people who want to stifle and stymie or to be disruptive of the effort. I hope, and I'm saying this, I know you guys don't do this. If we have 17 individuals who don't support it, those 17 kind of sort of got to go. Now they might do a shift, some of them, but some of them you can't believe. I wouldn't believe them if they told me it was raining outside and the guard was standing there with an umbrella. But they need to go. That's just my opinion. Okay, that's just my opinion. So you have this committee, the steering committee. The funding, how much funding actually will be allotted hypothetically the first year?
The first year of, if it's passed, would be 1%.
Okay.
The second year would be 1% again. The third year would be 1.5%, and then the 2% will kick in the fourth year. And for the steering committee, that's what the steering committee will be doing. They will oversee the projects and proposal, but they're also basically there to do community engagement, election operations, administration costs by the committee. They will also do education, community education, get out the vote, process and evaluation elections, operations, printing ballots, renting space, maintaining a website, and using additional platform for voting. And they're also there to also keep transparency between city council and administration of how the projects are going. They're responsible to the community every year to have meetings and tell the community what's going on with the people's budget.
So let's go back for a minute. You say 1% the first year. The first 2 years is actually 1%. That's 1% of the general fund.
Yeah, right. So it would be 1% of the city general fund, and then we'll go back to 1% the first year, 1% the second year, and then the third year would be 1.5% of the city general fund, and also 2% of the city general fund. But remember that all the funding does not have to come out of the general fund. Most of the funding can come out of capital improvement funding. So you're going to have some projects that are for capital, and you're going to have some projects that are for prosmatic programs. So most of the money will not come strictly out of the general fund. It will come, once again, out of capital improvement.
It can come out of different pots.
Right. And then there might be some projects that's already set up on board already that the community would like to see, but this will help speed up the process. So you might not have to take no money out because the money's already there. We just want to see it speed up. And remember, city council and also the administration has up to 6 months to make sure that these projects are working or in place, and they must report back to the city council council, administration must report it back to the city council every 6 months up to a year about where these projects are at. So that's the transparency.
So remember, this is a program of facts and truth. Somebody on council said $14 million the first year.
No,
No, that's not true.
it was not true. The
Wait a
fir-
minute, it's my program. Hold on.
Once again, the first initial fee that's coming out will be the $350,000 that will go to the steering committee to help set up this process. And I just told you what the process, some of the things that they're going to do is to help set it up and get it prepared. Then we go into the first year, then the 1.5%, and then the 2. But the initial first year is to set up this process to get it started.
So then, technically, if I'm understanding correctly, the first year is just $350,000 for ramp up
Yes.
costs. There's nothing above and beyond that coming. That 1% doesn't come out until actually the second year. But what for ramp up purposes is the first year.
Right.
All right. So you have 1%, 1%, 1.5, and 2%.
The fourth year,
Okay.
which
So
will give you 14 million.
right, if we use today's numbers in the
Yes.
budget, general fund.
And also remember, all money that is going to PB Cleve will stay in the pot. If it's not used, it will go back into the pot and be used for the next cycle.
So, and I just want to be sure for Carrie to understand for myself and the listeners, if I'm just using the amount of money, it's not going to be accurate. If 10% represents that first year, the 1%, $10 million, okay, let's just say it's 10 million, and only 7 million is spent. Does the 3 million carry over?
The 3 million carryover.
Yes.
Okay, so the next year, making the numbers consistent, be another 10 million because of the 1% plus the 3 million that's left over, so it's 13 million. Okay, all right. So you're listening to the Body Talk program on the No Static Radio Network. We're going to take a 360-second break and come back with Delores Gray and Andre to finish discussing the facts and the truth about PB Cleveland. Want to put it here? Got it?
It's fine.
All right. I want to fall on the floor and gun go off.
Has violence happened to you or your family? Violence can affect all parts of your life, sometimes in ways you can't see. Violence can affect the way you eat, sleep, it causes you to lose focus, feel angry, afraid, or even use drugs or drinking as a way to escape. But we're here to tell you that violence doesn't have to keep hurting, and you can change your life starting now with help from the Trauma Recovery Center. We want you to take control of your life because today can be the day the Trauma Recovery Center offers real help for real needs in real time. They offer services for food, clothes, safety, emotional support, and a whole lot more. So do not let violence control you. You can break free and TRC can help. Give them a call at 216-644-5487. They will come to you wherever you are. They are free. They're 24/7 and confidential. They can give you the tools to rebuild your life and your health. Call today, 216-644-5487. The Trauma Recovery Center of Northeast Ohio, also affiliated with the Center for Families and Children. And also, you guys, every day here, 365 days of the year, we never limit ourselves to our history. And now more than ever, there's a push for us to continue to spread our history, where we come from, what we've done, and our contributions to society, even today, is more important. So I introduced the Psalm and reintroduced the Psalm in lieu of the fact that, we're saying that as a woman, and I'm speaking primarily as a woman, that, certain things don't solely belong to us. I just want to reintroduce the Psalm and introduce the others. Mary Beatrice Davidson Kenner, born May 17, 1912, and left here January 13, 2006. She was an American inventor, most noted for her development of the adjustable sanitary belt. Although racial discrimination caused her patent for the sanitary belt to be prevented for 30 years, Kenner received 5 patents, which included a carrier attachment for an invalid walker and the bathroom tissue holder as well. Yeah, so Kenner invented the adjustable sanitary belt with an inbuilt moisture-proof napkin pocket. The completed patent application for her invention was in 1955. In 1956, the application was approved. The invention was described as an eliminator for chafing and irritation normally caused by devices of its class. Whew, I'm glad I wasn't born back then and had to witness that. But however, the company that first showed the interest in her invention, the Sun Nap Pack Company, rejected it after they discovered that she was an Afro-American woman. Kenner never made any money from the sanitary belt because her patent expired and became a public domain, unfortunately, allowing it to be manufactured freely. So later, she invented a modification of the sanitary belt that included the moisture-resistant pocket. Listen, in between 1956 and 87, she received 5 total patents for her household and personal item creations. She shared the patent on the toilet paper tissue holder with her sister Mildred Davidson. There's a lot to be said about Mildred too. We'll talk about her another time. She also held a patent on a backwasher that could be mounted on the shower or bathtub wall, also known as the backwash. And this invention was patented in 1987. She also patented the carrier attachment for the walker in 1959 after Mildred developed multiple sclerosis. So listen, I say this all the time, you guys. Listen, if you can't make it to a library, Google, Google your history, because knowing your history is knowing your now. And now back to Alan Bridges with Body Talk, a program for your mind, your body, and your soul.
Thank you, Marie, for the 2 reads of good information, especially about the violence against towards women. Before we go back to our guest, Delores Gray, to my immediate right, and to the far right is Mr. Andre White. As you know, I always feature a different book every week, if not 1 or 2. The book that's featured this week, that you hopefully can see on your screen, is titled God, the Black Man and Truth by Ben Ammi, A-M-M-I. It's an excellent read, not only for black men, it's an excellent read for all our brothers and sisters. And the other book I'm going to mention, something that I use when I talk, is the mental pyramid principle, logic in writing, thinking, and problem solving. I encourage everybody to read it. It's not an easy read, but it's a good informational read. It's written by Barbara Minto. I actually had her come lecture for me a couple times. And just real quick, from a Black history perspective, one of my favorites is Dr. George Washington Let me get this out the way first. Dr. George Washington Carver did not create peanut butter. He did not create peanut butter, but he did create well over 300 different items using the peanut, the legumes as they're more appropriately scientifically called. More so, his biggest contribution is crop rotation. Because coming from the South, he was a slave. He was a child of parents that were slaves. And he fell in love with agriculture. And he noticed that once cotton was planted, cotton sucked all the nutrients out the soil. You couldn't plant weeds behind cotton. The weeds would die. So Dr. Carver somewhat escaped slavery, ended up in Kansas, a city called Minneapolis, Kansas. Then he was accepted at a college, and when he showed up, they thought he was white, but he was black. So off to Iowa he went, and Iowa State, he earned his bachelor's degree, his master's degree, and his PhD. I'm not going to read all 300 of his contributions of scientific and food products, but some of these probably will surprise you. One of them, he invented peanut milk, Worcestershire sauce,
Come on.
punches, stuff like Kool-Aid,
Yep.
cooking oils,
Yep.
salad oils, and paper products. Just for brevity and time, he then left Iowa State and took a position at Tuskegee College, now Tuskegee University in Alabama. One of his mentors was a guy by the name of, anybody guess at the table?
Booker T. Washington.
Booker T. Washington. Very good, Mr. White. You can collect your $25 gift card. It's not going to be
Looking forward to that.
used. Dr. Carver then adopted his last name. That's how he came to be known as Dr. George Washington Carver.
Right.
They shared 2 labs next to each other in Tuskegee. If you ever have a chance to go visit Tuskegee College at HBCU, I encourage you to do that.
I
And
had
guess,
the opportunity.
yeah, it's in Tuskegee, Alabama.
Yep.
Yeah, beautiful school. Here's 3 quick quotes. Where there's no vision, there's no hope. That is Dr. Carver. That did not come from Bill Clinton. That came from Dr. Carver. Okay? Second quote, how far you go in life depends on your being tender with the young, compassionate with the aged, sympathetic with the striving, and tolerant of the weak and strong. Because somebody in your life you will have to depend on with all of these qualities. His third one, when you can do common things of life in an uncommon way, you will command the attention of the world. That's Dr. George Washington Carver. He is buried next to his mentor in a cemetery at Tuskegee College. If you have a chance to visit, go visit. Only thing I'm going to recommend, don't go down there in May and June because it is toasty. It's hot. And for those of you who have heard of the Tuskegee Airmen, he might not, I don't know if he had anything to do with the Tuskegee Airmen, but that's where the Tuskegee Airmen were trained at Tuskegee College. So let's go back to PB Cleve when we have Delores Gray and Andre White. And Andre, you wanted to make a point about something before we took the break.
Yeah, you had asked where would the funds would go to that people budget created. So I'm reading out of our petition that some of the city council people should have took the time to read it and got a better understanding of how this process will work. But it says people budget funds not utilized in the calendar year will remain in the people budget fund for the use of the people budget process in sequence years, or the same amount will be relocated to the people's budget funds for the following year and will be in addition to the amount allocated for a given year. So the money that's not spent will go back into the people's budget fund so they can reuse it again for the next cycle.
So it's a carryover.
It's a carry.
Okay, bless you. That's an accounting term. So let's get deeper into PB Cleve. Okay, we talked about some of the components of PP Cleve. We talked about the organization of the committee or the commissioners, committee members. So as a citizen, I come in front of the commissioners or submit a proposal and say, this is what I would like to have done across the city or in some specific ward or on the street. And who can do that? Can I, as young as 6 or 13 or whatever?
13 and up.
It is a process that the community comes together. There are going to be different clusters in the city of Cleveland. And one cluster, every individual in that neighborhood comes together and they sit down and they come up with proposals. And then once they come up with proposals, then they vote on those proposals. And yes, you can be 13 and up to vote on proposal. 13-year and up individuals do not make decisions of where the money is spent. They also take part of the proposals and what's the other one?
With the, what type of
And grants.
So it's from when I'm looking here too, it says it's a 5-step process. So Cleveland residents make decisions about our city budget together, as Andre stated, and then they design the process, collect ideas in our community, create proposals. That's the 3rd step. Create proposals. From those ideas, vote, and 5, the city implements the project.
And let's go back because I heard our council president talk about this will be a big headache.
Who's the council president?
Oh,
I'm sorry.
Blaine Griffin.
Okay, thank you.
He said that this would be a big headache and it wouldn't work. Well, I want to bring to Blaine's attention that this has been going on in Ward 1 for years. Because we have what we call the master plan. This is before Joe Jones came along and master plan has died because he has no idea how it operated or how it worked. But it was citizens coming together in Ward 1 from different communities, and we came together and we said what we like to see in our ward. So we would like to see new schools. We would like to see the intersection of Lee Road be rebuilt. We like more trees. They came up with all these ideas. We put it in the booklet. These are the things that we want, and then we submitted it to City Council or the administration. And did some other stuff got done? Yes, because as you know, we got brand new schools. We got 2. Well, we had a couple of brand new schools in Ward 1. A new rec center. There's a lot of things that we got, and it did work because we came together as a community. What we like to see, so it does work.
Okay, so basically, if I'm understanding, and I want clarity for the listeners, is PB Cleveland enhances the transparency piece, and it definitely implements a better listening piece. And if the cluster, as you two are calling it, or labeling it, the cluster comes together and says, I'm just going to use an example, we would like to have more trees or a new school or whatever. And that doesn't happen. The only thing they can do is look at themselves now.
What do you mean it doesn't happen? Because they have to vote on it.
Well, yeah. Well, I mean, the cluster will vote, right?
Right.
Then it goes to the committee of 10. And then sorry to call it a pocket or a bucket. It goes into the bucket with the other recommended proposals from around the city.
Right.
And that doesn't mean that Ward 15 is always going to get what they want, or Ward 1 is always going to get what they want, or whatever. They might get a piece of what they want,
right,
or whatever. Okay, so that's
right. It's a body of people coming together and voting on suggestions, proposals that they would like to see in their community.
Right. It's very simple to me.
It is. Well, it's simple,
and then they
not too.
After they come up with all these ideas, then it finally goes to a ballot. Everybody gets a ballot, or you can vote online. And then once you vote, then it is sent back to the committee, and then they tell the administration and city council, this is what these clusters would like to see
Right.
as get to work.
Okay,
And
so
then they have to implement it.
so once the clusters vote
Mhm.
and this whatever project or proposal is passed, then it's up to the administration to have it go forward.
Yes.
Okay. So I'm like I mentioned earlier, I don't know if you had a chance to listen on your way in.
No.
What if I drag my feet as the mayor?
Well, they can't drag their feet because once again, they have 6 months to report back to the people, report back to city council on what the process is. Then they have another 6 months to say what the process. They have to keep transparency of what's going on.
Yes.
You can't drag your feet on this, and they do. Then we get on.
Okay.
They'll be held accountable.
Right.
Period.
And matter of fact, once again,
You like those 4-syllable words,
Yes,
accountable,
I do.
transparency. You're listening to the Body Talk program on the No Static Radio Network. Go ahead, Andre.
our all projects selected through the PB process, the city shall publicly report implement progress back to the committee every 6 months until the project is completed and shall endure to fully implement each project within 18 months. That is part of what we put in
Right.
this petition, the ballot initiative.
Okay.
It says the city is required to implement the project residents select. City council does not get to prevent from going forward,
Correct.
projects residents select.
So in other words, city council does not have to
Approve.
approve
Mhm.
on the ordinance for the expenditure of the money.
Because once again, this is a charter amendment and you have to abide by the charter amendment.
Okay. All right. No, that sounds good. That sounds good.
It's all written here and I don't understand where they get all these.
Well, you know what it is, Andre? What it is that they're banking on people not reading and that they can change people's minds to deflect from what we're doing. So that's why, that's why we're here right now, because it's very important that people understand that we have the language here. We worked hard on this. It is there, and these are the facts. What Andre is reading, what I'm reading, those are the facts about PB Cleve.
That's why I labeled this particular program because of PB Cleveland, you two represented Delores Gray and Andre White, the facts and the truth. Because I forgot who said it. It wasn't anybody from PB Cleveland. You're gonna have 13-year-olds voting.
They're voting on a project.
They're voting on a project that they would like to see. And once again, what is wrong with 13, 16-year-olds, 15-year-olds coming in saying, I would like to see more basketball hoops. I would like us to invest in mental health for our young people.
Right.
I would like to see more anything on gun violence. What's wrong with 13 to 16 or 17, 18-year-olds coming out, and this gets them engaged in their community.
Right.
It's early.
And then those are our next, those are our the new generation and our future.
Voters.
So there's voters. So this is important. This is like a civic engagement education for them as well. So
It's early. I mean,
yes.
I think it's an excellent idea.
They're not voting to tell you where money is going. They don't have no say so where money going. They're voting on ideals. And a lot of 13-year-olds and up have good ideals that we need to sit down and listen to them.
Right. Their ideas are just as important, if not more valuable, than somebody who's 71
right.
years
And
old.
when we were doing, not to cut you off, but when we were doing the project of the rec center, Frank Douglas, we went to the young folks and we asked them, where would you like to see this rec center at? And they suggested where it's located at now, on Miles, next to the school. So they can go from the school straight to the rec center. That's where they spend
It's a
most of their
beautiful
time.
facility too.
Well, thank you, Delores.
It's nice.
Yeah, okay. You're listening to the Body Talk program on the No Static Radio Network. Let's, and we somewhat touched on earlier the fallacies that are coming out and the myths, the scare tactics, or whatever. See, what I find interesting about this in comparison to other issues or initiatives that tried to make the ballot in and around Cleveland over the years, you have how many people, and you don't have to give the exact number, What do you have, about 15 people?
No, we had over 180 people that took out petitions and circulated throughout the city, and we had over 10,000 plus individuals that signed it, and out of that 10,000, we had over 6,852 validated signatures, and that shows you. And we did it in less than 6 weeks.
Yes, and then as I stated before, also registered over 900 folks to vote.
Right.
And that, like you said, within a 6 weeks mark, that's to me that is democracy right there in the making.
Right. So you had 180 people walking petitions that represented a broad cross section of the city of Cleveland.
Yeah,
Coalition.
groups.
There's that multiple syllable word again. Another one, coalition. Coalition of people from across the city of Cleveland.
Yes.
City of Cleveland.
From Ward 17 all the way down to Ward 0.
Correct.
Right.
Okay.
Ward 0.
Depends on where you live.
We had people everywhere.
Okay, and which is,
And you know,
And we
the
were
number one-
even out there.
And the number one question was, why just 2%? Why don't you ask for more? Why more? Why not more? That was a big question.
well, I mean, you could ask for 10%, you could ask for 50%. You get to a point where it's a little bit ridiculous, you get to a point where that's not enough. And just using that 2% number, if the 2% was going to be the first year, which is not, it would represent approximately $14 million.
We're talking about a 1.9 billion revenue that's coming in, and there's 710 or 720 million for the operational budget. We're only asking for 2%. We're giving you 98%.
Yes.
So you want to be that greedy?
Well, it's not actually, and without getting into the math nuances and accounting, you're not actually giving back 98%. You're just asking 2% for an expense line in the operating budget,
Right.
which in the scheme of things is really an immaterial amount of money.
Exactly.
If you look at $750 million, Delores said 550 million, half a billion, so 710 is almost $750 million. $14 million really is an immaterial amount of money at that point in time.
Right.
And since you can have a carryover and you keep building upon that, but, and I'm going to say this for me, I'm not saying you have to expend every year allocation, but I hope you at least expend 80 to 85% plus of that.
I think once, because I do feel that this is going to pass, but I think once, everybody realize and recognize what we're really doing, then each year will be better.
Okay.
It'll be more and more people coming out with projects that they want for their community.
And remember, it's still up to the steering committee to make those guidelines and rules. And maybe one of those guidelines will say, hey, maybe we don't have to constantly, go into the pot. We have this amount. I'm just throwing this out here. It's up to the steering committee to make those guidelines and how they want to.
Okay. No, which you listen to the Body Talk program on the No Static Radio Network. We have Delores Gray and Andre from representing BP Cleve. See, one of the, I'm going to skip around here, question wise, is you have this special event coming up on September 26th. What's happening on September 26th of 2023?
Yeah, Chris Harsh, I believe it's Harsh.
It's Harsh.
Chris Harsh has challenged PB Cleve to do a debate. So it was like, why not? We'll do it.
Yeah.
So it's September 26th.
And where is it going to be held?
I believe it's going to be downtown at the theater.
Public auditorium.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
public
They call it the
auditorium.
Little Theater.
Yeah.
Center. Okay.
Right. So please come.
Yeah, we'll all be there.
Right. Please come and listen to the facts,
Yes.
the truth, because we're going to deliver it.
But see, one, and I'm going to presume that Chris is not a supporter of PB Cleve.
Of course.
No, it's not.
He's not, yes.
I don't think he even read the language.
Right. I mean, he's new as a council person because he was appointed, I believe. But, I just think he is, he wants to get his name up in lights.
Go,
So,
go to Home Depot, buy some black bulbs. But I'm not.
but you know, you have to have the facts, and you know, just like Andre has this information right here. It's like the facts are all written out. It's plain as day.
Mhm.
There's nothing that's changed on it. We're moving forward with all of that.
Well, help me understand. Is there a website I can go to?
Yes, it is because it's pbcle.com.
Okay, say that real slow again.
pbcle.com.
Okay. So
And on that website, you'll see all the articles that have been written about PB in the city of Cleveland. There's a lot of information that you can see. You will also see all the organizations that are part of this coalition. So we advise you to go on to this website. And there's also our donation.
Right, you can donate.
You can donate.
because that was going to be one of my next questions. So I can make a donation.
Yes, we're on
Right.
Act Blue.
Okay. All right.
PB
And
Cleve.
people are connecting to it too.
Right. So how can I also go on the website pbcle.com and request somebody from the coalition to come
Yes.
out and speak to my street
Yes.
club,
Yes.
my ward group or whatever? I
Yes.
can do that.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. And is there a phone number I can call? Do I call you two directly
Well, I see the number here. It says call or text 216-714-2341. And our email address is pbclecoalition@gmail.com.
Okay, read that real slow and give it to the audience again, your email address.
The email address is pbclecoalition@gmail.com.
Let's rewind the clock for a minute. Let's go back maybe 10, 15 minutes, no more than that. Okay. I want the audience to be informed by representatives of PB Cleveland. Is this going to bankrupt the city?
No.
I didn't hear you. Is this going to bankrupt the city?
No.
No.
Okay. Is the police department going to have to lay off people?
No.
No.
Is the health department going to close?
No.
Are we going to, is the city not going to be able to hire housing inspectors or lay off the housing
No.
inspectors we have now?
No.
Okay. And I'm going to bring this up just last Wednesday, a week from tomorrow, which was last week. City Council approved tax abatement for an apartment building for a total of $10 million over so many years. Okay? If they're so concerned about a revenue line, why are you giving tax revenue away?
Good question. Excellent. That's a good question. Because what I did was I looked at that $9.2 million. That's $1 million per year,
We rounded it up.
and $1 million could pay for 14 police officers, and then in 10 years, that's 146 police officers that have been hired. You got to ask city council.
Yeah, they need. That's why I'm going to use that word again. They have to be transparent. They have to. Yeah, and accountable.
And I'm going to add, since you like those long words, they have to be consistent.
Exactly.
See, don't say that we're hurting for revenue, but you're giving revenue away. Now, I'm going to answer your question, Andre. I did reach out to a couple council members about that and have not heard from the Ward 0 person, which I doubt I will. And the other council person, I don't know them. I just randomly pick somebody. See, one of the things that I believe in, just be consistent. If you don't drink, don't drink. If you only drink scotch, don't drink tequila.
Right.
Okay? Seriously. There's inconsistencies in what they say one thing.
Mhm.
Remember I said pay attention to what they say, pay closer attention to what they do.
Right.
That's $10 million they gave away. And I'm going to use their term. They gave away our money.
Their money, our money. Which one?
Well,
Because it's their money.
it's their money. They gave away their money. And it's their money according to them, but it's our money in essence.
Taxpayers.
The
Yes,
taxpayers'
taxpayers.
money. Now, let's be, if you look in the Plain Dealer this morning, and I read too much, so I'm going blind. One of the things that is listed there are all the different municipalities in and around Collier County that have tax levies on the ballot. You know, some of them are school initiatives, some of them are libraries, some of them for other items. The only way you raise revenue in any municipality is either through taxes, fees, or fines.
Right.
Now, I don't know about you two. Are you going down to City Hall and write a check to the treasurer this afternoon? The finance department say, just out of the graciousness of my heart, I'm going to give you $100,000?
No.
No. See, one of the things that I think BP Cleve or Cleveland is going to do is going to make better, and
Stewards of money.
he finished my sentence.
Yes.
Better
I was
stewards.
thinking the same thing.
It's going to make them, and I'm going to turn this because I don't want you two to get involved in some political hissing contest. You're going to have to put better people on city council
Well, I totally agree.
who understand what stewardship
Yes.
means and what servantship really is. Because they're not stewards. And I'm generalizing, I'm not going to say it's all 17.
You know what I don't like when you're talking about these council folks is that they're not using. It's like they're like a clique. That's what they are. Because when one person, you know, says something, yeah, the president or whatever, they all follow, even if they know that it's not right. It's like they're not using their own, you know, how they really feel or whatever. You know what I'm saying? It's, to me, that's how I look at it.
Well, this is a problem, and I'm generalizing, and I understand and agree with you, Delores. See, I think one of the things that I've learned over the years and working with different elected people, not here, but kind of sort of here, but more so away from here, always vote your conscience. Don't vote and follow a crowd.
Exactly.
If somebody comes to you, comes to whoever and says, well, it would be nice if we had a 17-zip vote. Well, I'm not going to vote for that because that's not the right thing to do. So it's going to be 16 to 1 or 14 to whatever. And again, this goes back some years, and I guess it even apply now. Well, if you don't vote for it, we're going to put you out the caucus. Okay? I just be put out. So what? I can't come get my bologna and cheese sandwich every Tuesday or whatever. Do what's right.
Right. Have integrity. Period. Just have integrity.
But if you have integrity, that means you have to have character. And like we mentioned earlier, I said it. You did. When you vote, that person you're voting for, you're voting. It shows your character and integrity.
Exactly.
That's what you're voting for.
Right.
Okay. And I agree with you. So let's go back to BP Cleve. What's the website again?
It is pbcle.com.
And the phone number is 216-714-2341. The phone number is 216-714-2341. I broke a rule. I normally don't give out phone numbers. I have the guests do it because if I might have transposed the numbers and some plumber's going to get your calls now. Okay? And again, the website is www.pbcle.com.
Yes.
Please donate.
Yeah,
Yes.
please. Okay.
Go on there and donate.
Now, what's the? I'm going to donate. What's the donation going to go towards? Y'all going to have steak sandwiches? We're going out to Red Steakhouse every other Friday.
Donation is going towards whatever a campaign does to win. That is to pay for people, that is to pay for literature, that is to get our message out. All those good things that a campaign does to win.
Right.
And I'm not going to use the term if. When PB Cleve wins, when it passes, I think this will be, you'll see a bigger dynamic shift or change in Cleveland, because it's going to show to the voters that they understand that they have the power. The power is not in the person or people who sit at 601 Lakeside. It's the voters who have the power.
And I'm glad you mentioned that, not to cut you off, but PB Cleve is not a bunch of individuals who are looking to take money and use this money for their purpose gain. That's not what PB Cleve is about. PB Cleve is about the people having the right to choose projects, proposals in their community to make a different or quality of life change.
To help
That's
their
what it's about.
neighborhood to thrive.
And especially when, let's just say over so many years, or it could be small years, when the citizens don't see things being done for them, they just don't. You know, I was born and reared here in Cleveland, and I see things over the years that are just, there's some good things and there's some bad things that's happening here. And the good, everybody wants to stand up and take credit, and I'm just going to say it. I think most elected folks want to stand up there and put a hard hat on that doesn't fit, and get a shovel with a gold tip, and get a piece of the ribbon with the phony scissors when it's cut. Okay, and they forget about the neighborhoods, as
Right.
both of you pointed out. Maybe, hopefully, more so prayerfully, this is a wake-up call for the voters in Cleveland to do what they need to do so that they can now win again and own their neighborhoods.
This initiative, once again, is about the people.
Yes.
Not about the steering committee, not about the individuals who are on the steering committee get this ballot. This is about the people. Don't listen to city council or they're saying that we want this money. This is about the people making a decision about real power of how they're using their tax dollars to improve the quality of their life.
So I'm just going to, you mentioned trees, and I'm not knocking the people who believe in trees and arborists and fresh air. I don't want any more trees because I'm breaking too many leaves already. So just as an example, let's say for the big concrete trash cans in and around the city, somebody could submit a proposal to paint those the city colors, blue, red, or whatever they might be. We could put in a proposal to do mental health counseling someplace, or hire a counselor to show up at wherever, things, items such as that.
A lot of
Or
cities.
have like more, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, but to have like even more mobile units and buses and things like that to, go to people that need mental health services and things like that. It is so much that can be, so many projects that I've heard from in the community that they have all these ideas that are actually wonderful, just excellent things that can really help the community.
Well, see, it's interesting. You said you've heard, because that means you're listening to people as you go around, even when you were circulating the petition. You hear that, but certain council people don't. Something's not right here. Something's not right. And I think that, there's I wish I could remember who said it, speak truth to power. I don't even want to say they have the power, because that contradicts what I said earlier. The voters have the power. The voters have the right to speak.
Yes.
They have the right to be heard. They have the right to be listened to. They have the right to be told the truth.
Right.
And I can't speak for what happens in Detroit, Washington, Jacksonville, Dallas, or wherever, because I happen to live here. There's a whole heap of untruth tellers in this city who hold positions that they shouldn't be in. They just shouldn't. And there's a move afoot, not necessarily what you, PB Cleveland's doing. It came out about a day's Tuesday, so it came out late Sunday. And people are still discussing it. Is should there be term limits in Ohio?
Yes, I have. Yeah.
The governor's term limited
Yeah.
Yeah, the term limits in the
in the House,
state house,
in the Senate,
yes, in the state of Ohio.
in the state of Ohio. Yeah, in the state of Ohio. But not at the local level.
Right.
In certain cities there are.
Mhm.
And I use the example where Tom Foley, he was Speaker of the House in Congress. He was from Washington State. And the voters in Washington State voted for term limits across everybody who was elected from the local to the federal level. They term limited their own Speaker of the House in Congress at that time. And it goes to show, I think some people, you reach a point, I'm using a fancy term going back to my academic days, you reach a point of entropy. You reach a point where you just have nothing else to contribute.
Right.
Is being on city council, well, somebody brought up, and I'll let you in here in a minute, somebody brought up last week, well, the police department, the chief's been here 30 years, that's too long. Okay, I mean, the person had the right to say that. So how long, if you've been on city council more than 12 years, have you been there too long?
If you're not doing anything, yes.
Well, depending on who you talk to, you don't need Excel to figure out that 0 + 0 = 0. If you do, then I'm teaching that class too. Should there be term limits, even as a civil servant? A 10-year limit, not term limit, but a 10-year limit?
Term limits, yes.
Well, based upon what I see in Cleveland, yes, there should be term limits. See, when you hold a position for whatever term, tenure people come up with, that's it. Now, certain things should be in perpetuity. If you get married, you don't say, well, hey, baby, we only signed this for 10 years. But if you've been on city council more than 12 years, I think you've been there too long. Especially if you look around and people want to say, well, she's done this. But if you want to term limit a police chief, then you have to term limit yourself.
Okay.
I mean, that's just logic 1, 0, 0. That's not even 101. That's basic.
Right.
That's basic logic, okay? So Andre, you were going to say something. You listen to the Body Talk program on the No Static Radio Network.
Yeah, since you talk about term, and let me go back to the committee. No resident may serve more than 2 terms in their lifetime on this committee.
Oh, so it's like the president.
Right.
The president of the United States is term limited.
So there's a term limit for PB,
Okay.
the steering committee. So
Right.
you cannot serve no more than 2 terms for your lifetime.
Yeah, see, that's interesting, which is a good thing. Thanks for pointing that out. And to give a quick history lesson. Constitutionally, the president can only serve a total of 8 years. Now, he or she can be elected for a 4-year term, lose and come back, but they can only serve 4 more years. But it's interesting, the vice president can be selected forever and ever. He or she can serve forever. There's no term limits on vice president. And Grover Cleveland was the only one who had a broken term.
And real quick, let's go back to PB real quick. That there's 2 types of PB.
Mm-hmm.
There's a neighborhood and there's a citywide. So you get a ballot for your neighborhood and then you get a ballot for a citywide project.
So I can vote, if I live in Ward 0, I can vote on something that's
In your neighborhood, in that
my
cluster.
neighbor, in that cluster. But I can also vote citywide on something that's
Right.
affecting maybe
The
Ward
city.
The whole
6,
city.
7,
The whole city
17.
that you'd like to see the
For the
city
entire
have.
city.
Right.
Just, and maybe you don't know the nuances. If that vote, how's that vote going to take place?
Or it takes, like we said, it's a ballot. Let's don't speculate. It is up to the steering committee to put the guidelines together on how that's their job, on the election procedures, how to do the procedure in election, how to get the ballots to individuals, do online. That's their job. Not to overwatch, not to oversee all the money and put money in their pocket and be corrupted and all these things that they're saying. It is their job to make sure this is a smooth process.
And let's do the money. Money, I hate to use the term thing, but she's used all my 4-syllable words. How do you do you're gonna have fiduciary, or is the city gonna manage the money itself, or is it gonna be held by the Cleveland Foundation or the Bridges Foundation, whatever? Is the city gonna hold the funds? Is that gonna be, okay?
Yeah, I don't
Would
know
be separate.
exactly on that
Right.
one.
Well, I would like to thank Delores Gray to my immediate right and Mr. Andre White, who both of them are representing.
We don't want to give the wrong information.
Oh, no, that's fine. I understand. That was just a projected question.
But we can, I'll say this, we can find that out and get the information back to you.
Would like to thank Delores Gray and Andre White from representing BP Cleveland, coming in and discussing the facts and the truth. And anytime you two or anybody else from PP Cleve wants to come back on the air for clarification or to say, go vote, go vote, go vote, come donate, come donate.
And September 6th, we will be getting an issue number, so we'll
Okay.
be relaying that issue number back to you so you can spread the word for us that this is the issue.
And please let me know if you have any community fundraising activities or whatever. If you give away free hamburgers or Polish boys, I'll be there. Again, I'd like to thank the listeners. Again, my name is Al Bridges for listening to Body Talk program on No Static Network. And I want you to go out and have a safe weekend. And remember, if you're not registered to vote, register. And I don't tell you to vote, but I'm going to say please vote yes on PB Cleveland. And I'll see you
Issue
next
number
week.
coming soon.
Okay. Thank you, Andre and Delores.
You're welcome.
You're welcome. Are we off?
Yes. We'd like to thank you for tuning in to Body Talk, a program for your mind, body, and soul here on a station where we don't bring no static, but we sure enough bring the noise on staticradio.net. Make sure you guys check us out on social media where we absolutely love to hear from you on facebook.com/no static radio, on X, formerly known as Twitter, at no static underscore radio, on Instagram at the real underscore no static radio, on YouTube at no static radio, and our newest platform, discover.tv. Just type in no static radio, all one word. And for for replays of this show and others, please check us out on Mixer or mixcloud.com. Same thing, just type in no static radio, all one word, in the toolbar for replays of this show and all others on the platform. And for continuous streaming, that means no interruption or refreshing the page. Just sit back, relax, and let it do its thing on its own on tunein.com, liveonlineradio.net, or MediaQ for continuous streaming uninterrupted of this show and all others on the platform. And for all things No Static Radio, including the up and coming events, merchandise, and a look at all our great show hosts here, please check out our website at www.nostaticradio.net. Thank you guys so much for tuning in on this Testimony Tuesday. And stay tuned later on this evening. We have today's gospel music show. Also, King and Lady Grape of the Grapevine show here on Your Voice of the Revolution, staticradio.net, powered by Google, partner with Colors, and sponsored by Lamont Avenue Wines, the Cleveland Rugby League, and Design Me exclusively. You guys be safe, have a good one, and don't go nowhere. We'll be right back.